materials, yet cost 40% less than full synthetics. DuraBlend from Valvoline. People who know use Valvoline. We asked some of the hottest guys in town to trade their deodorant for Degree deodorant.
Let's give it a shot.
As your body heat rises, only Degree releases extra protection against odor.
I'm going to stick to Degree. Stuff works.
Degree deodorant for a higher degree of protection.
Why do I think the Whopper beat both the Big Mac and Wendy's single in taste tests? You kidding? The Whopper from Burger King's flame broiled. The others are fried. Let me elaborate. The Whopper tastes like it's hot off the barbecue, and that makes people happy. Come on, just talking about a flame broiled Whopper makes me smile. Think about it. Did you ever see sad people sitting around a barbecue? Never.
Come in and ask for the winning Whopper and get it for just 99 cents for a limited time only at Burger King.
This NHL season, it's all crunch time. So when they ice it, hook it, save it, stick it, stop it, play it, and score it, you'll need to know. NHL Tonight on ESPN2. News, features, and highlights. Sports Center for the hockey addict. Tuesday through Saturday at 11:30 p.m. As the clock winds down, the season heats up on ESPN2.
All right, back in New York, the 10th team is on the clock, the Cleveland Browns, who were certainly looking at tight end Kyle Brady to be under the tutelage of Ozzie Newsome, the last tight end they took in the first round many years ago, and to expand that offense. Let's go down to Andrea Kramer at Jacksonville, and I know, Andrea, that the Browns now have gone back and are working feverishly on their draft board. This is a shocker to them.
A shocker, or as I think Hank Goldberg just used the word flabbergasted, I think they are totally shocked and really in disarray. I don't think they expected this at all. They have still on their board Ellis Johnson at their board at 10. Ellis Johnson, and they talked about Warren Sapp all along. However, they had told me earlier that they wouldn't take Sapp at 10. Now they may have to reconsider. There's also a chance of moving down, but I think right now they are feverishly, as you used it, Chris, trying to decide what to do. They don't have defensive tackles, as you guys just mentioned, and Ellis Johnson was up there. So the guy they really wanted to move up for, of course, was Mike Mamula. They didn't have the firepower to do so without a second-round pick. So now they're sitting there, and they are making a lot of quick decisions. Let's go out to the Jets on Long Island and Hank Goldberg.
Andrea, there's a little bit of a buzz here that perhaps the Jets aren't finished. You know, one thing about Richie Kotite, he has cleaned out a lot of guys here who he thinks weren't convinced that they wanted to be Jets, Rob Moore being the latest one. So he's not afraid to pull the trigger on a deal like this, and perhaps Mitchell may be the next to go. That is a distinct possibility, and Cleveland's next. That's another possibility, Cleveland needing a tight end. Remember, Luther Ellis is still on the board for the Jets, another defensive lineman who they like. Back to New York.
I feel, Hank, that this may be, you know, they pulled a big move yesterday, a surprise pick today. They have another first-round pick coming up, 6 picks down the board. And Richie may be cleaning the house a little bit, but we shall see. Warren Sapp is there. Michael Dean Perry, James Jones tackles. Cleveland Browns now gone, both to Denver. This certainly would fit. Before we get Joe teed off on that subject, let's hit it over to Craig James. Craig?
Well, I'm with a surprise guy, Kyle Brady. I'm very surprised, actually. I'm very thankful that I'm here. Thank God that I'm here, but I thought I was going to the Browns. I was almost positive, and the Jets shocked me with a phone call, and I couldn't be more surprised, no doubt about it.
How about the fans, Jets fans in here?
Oh, they're tough, man. I'll tell you, I've never been booed before in my life. I come into New York, you know, the whole place is putting on a good time for us, and the fans boo me, so I guess I'll have to get used to it. You know, New York people are tough.
You got to get used to that left-handed pass from Boomer Esiason, right?
Yeah, that's right. I'm used to some bullets from Kerry Collins, but I wouldn't mind catching him from Boomer. I hear a lot of he's a great quarterback, and just have to get used to that left-handed spin.
Get used to the fans, too.
Oh, you're right. I'm going to have to go up here and make some friends if I can.
All right, Chris, I'll tell you this. Jets fans will love this guy. I guarantee you he goes to the Pro Bowl.
All right, Craig, yeah, 3 or 4 games in, there won't be booze for Kyle Brady. He's a really nice football player. Just surprised that he went, like everybody else, to number 9 of the Jets. Mort, your take on what's going on here with the Jets.
Well, like all kinds of possibilities going on now, like Andrea mentioned, y'all have mentioned. You know, Ellis Johnson is certainly a possibility here, Sapp. But the L.A. Raiders want to move up into this spot right now to take Tyrone Wheatley of Michigan. And it's going to be interesting to see if, in fact, the Raiders can convince the Browns to trade out of that spot right now, Chris.
Well, the Raiders have also talked to the Saints about trading up in the 13th spot for Tyrone Wheatley. But more, one other item here, Cleveland, which chooses ahead of Minnesota and Tampa, of course, thinking defensive line. Both Minnesota and Tampa like Ellis Johnson. The Buccaneers discussing a trade with the Browns about possibly trading up ahead of the Vikings in Cleveland spot to pick Ellis Johnson. The Saints at 13 also thinking defense would like Ellis Johnson as well. Let's go back now to Chris Berman in New York.
All right, Chris, thank you very large. Cleveland and Minnesota, two teams that certainly could be looking D-line are the next two on the board. We shall see. Stay with us, please. New York, Bristol, and beyond. We're everywhere.
Zima Gold. You could say it's because it's the only charcoal grill that starts with the push of a button, or because its stainless steel work surface opens to a charcoal storage bin. But the flip-up cooking grate gives easier access to the char baskets below, or that the simple stroke of a lever clears the ashes in a single sweep. The Weber Performer Grill. Of all the great features that have been put into it, perhaps the best feature is what you get out of it. If it's Weber, it's great outdoors.
It's a breakthrough that brings us to a new level of performance. In the rain, in the snow. It even saves gas. Michelin's new energy tires with radial XSE technology. It's science that goes beyond magic.
The engine, a superbly fine-tuned piece of motion machinery. It possesses 750 horsepower savagery and an uncontrollable spirit fueled by fire, driven by courage. It has a mind of its own and praises those that can dance with it. The engine is four-wheel terror. NASCAR on ESPN. Strap in. The Haynes 500 tomorrow at 3.
ESPN's coverage of the 1995 NFL Draft is brought to you by Michelin, because so much is riding on your tires. And by Acura. Some things are worth the price.
Here. Close to 2 hours into the 60th annual NFL Draft, and it's been an intriguing first couple of hours. Rich Kotite's first draft as head coach of the New York Jets, a team he used to be an assistant coach for. When he was head coach with the Eagles, the 4 years there, 41 total selection, 19 on the Eagles, 8 of them starters, as yet no Pro Bowlers. Just took a tight end, Kyle Brady. But this is a new era for both Kotite and for the Jets, and he surprised everybody by going with Kyle Brady. He's with our Hank Goldberg now at Jets headquarters. Hank?
Well, Richie, you sprung the first upset of the day in the draft. When did you start thinking about Brady, and where does Mitchell stand? That's the second part of the question.
Well, Mitchell is very important to us. I think to have two great tight ends is very important to us and the things we're going to do offensively. Very few teams have one outstanding tight end, but he was rated so high on our board that at this point we couldn't pass him up.
You know, when we talked before, you talked about, and you've been quoted as comparing Sapp with Jerome Brown, or, you know, you had Jerome, that he might be that kind of player, and Sapp is still there. I've got to ask you about the team's attitude towards him.
Well, you know, there are a lot of similarities, and he's an outstanding player, but the two guys I was talking about basically were Carter and Mamula. And when they came off the board, we felt that getting Brady was the best thing for us. I don't think anyone can dispute the talent. He's outstanding tight end, maybe one of the finest to come out in recent years. And I think he's going to fit in very well here. He's a great blocker. He's an outstanding receiver. And with the type of movement that Johnny Mitchell has, that will give us a lot of different things we can do with Johnny Mitchell.
Did the situation with Sapp make him not possible?
No, I don't think that's true. I think you have to go how your people are rated on the board, and we had Brady so high that we took him.
What about the wide receiver position now? You still haven't dealt with that.
No, we haven't at this point, but it's still certainly a possibility. We still have a lot of picks. We still got another number one, but I'm confident that we'll get a receiver that's going to help us, and I'm just thrilled that we have two tight ends that can apply a lot of pressure to defenses.
Okay, Richie, thanks very much.
Thank
We'll
you.
Talk to you later.
Thank you.
Okay, back to you in New York.
All right, Richie and Hank, thank you very much. Just a thought on the Jets. You say that, and Richie Kotite said that two tight ends are very important. Last year, the Jets kind of went away from what Boomer Esiason does best. play action. There's nobody better in football at quarterback than Boomer Esiason to play action. Two good tight ends, one who can move down the field a little bit, might play into his hands a little bit and use his strength. That's just a thought after hearing Kotite say that Mitchell is big in their plans. Now, what about Cleveland's plans, Joe? Well, they lost their tackles. Here's Sapp.
One quick thing on the Jets. J.J. Stokes is probably going to be there for their next pick. The Cleveland Browns have built their football team from inside out. Guys from big schools, 2 from Michigan, 1 from Alabama, 1 from Stanford, 1 from UCLA. Turner, Vardell, Everett inside, Langham outside, and then Alexander. I think that they wanted Kyle Brady. Absolutely, they wanted that tight end. But don't be surprised if they don't take a linebacker, maybe a Craig Powell out of Florida State, guy with a lot of speed. Obviously, because of the unique situation of the Jets draft, you also could see Cleveland trade out. They don't have a second round. Maybe they could pick up somebody there. Bruner's a tight end there. I'm not 100% convinced that they think he's the guy. I think they could go defensive line with Ellis Johnson or possibly Craig Powell to fill in where they want to be. They've been taking people from big schools. I think they'll stay that way.
Well, the Browns are on the clock. Their clock is about run up. The pick is there. Cleveland has an interesting decision to make. Let's go to the commissioner. Yeah, they're mulling over it. Now, could it be a pronunciation? See, now we get to the point where is it a pronunciation question? Well, we'll know in a minute.
2 pieces of paper.
We've had a trade and a pick. San Francisco 49ers acquired Cleveland's choice.
Oh.
And San Francisco selected wide receiver from UCLA, J.J. Stokes.
Whoa.
Minnesota is next on the clock with a pick acquired from Denver through Atlanta. On a trade, Cleveland acquires San Francisco's first-round pick this year, the 30th pick. San Francisco's third-round pick this year, the 94th pick. Kansas City's fourth-round pick this year, number 119. And San Francisco's first-round pick in 96.
Wow. Well, let me say this about the San Francisco 49ers. They move quicker because there's no way they knew Stokes would be there at 10 until the Jets picked Brady. So in 10 minutes, the 49ers made this move, drafted it up, because they know that John Taylor is reaching the end of his great productivity. They've got a guy like Stokes. Now, this is very similar to a move they made in 1985 when the slot opened at 16 for Jerry Rice and Bill Walsh moved up. Jerry Rice is the greatest receiver in the history of the National Football League. This was 1985 when Rice was there. Eddie Brown and Al Toon went ahead of him. Rice was picked with the 16th selection, and they haven't looked back ever since. This is an amazing move by the 49ers, and this was the highest that they thought they could get. With possibility of Tampa, but this was, they said, boy, we'll have to put together a lot of things. Now, keep another thing in mind. Cap numbers. They trade a lot of picks. So they just sign one guy, and they don't have to spend for a lot of other players. So it also adds into their economics, Mel.
One thing, too, Chris, Jerry Rice, we know he's a Hall of Famer, but he's not 25 anymore. And you got to think for the future, and you have to look at depth on the San Francisco 49er football team. Nate Singleton, who came over from the Giants. They lose Ed McCaffrey in free agency. Like I said, they need somebody to groom and work into that rotation with John Taylor and Jerry Rice, and certainly J.J. Stokes. It seems like it's great to be the third receiver pick. Mort mentioned Michael Irvin, third behind Sharp and Timmy Brown, and, of course, Jerry Rice. The speed factor pushed him down. The speed factor pushed J.J. Stokes to the point where they could trade up. So the 49ers know what they're doing, Chris.
Jerry Rice was the replacement to Freddie Solomon, a very productive receiver. Freddie Solomon and Dwight Clark were the receivers. They're interesting to note. Dwight Clark, one of the men pulling the strings these days for the San Francisco 49ers. But Carmen Policy really pulls them. Let's go out to 49ers headquarters at 4949 Centennial Boulevard in Santa Clara, California, and join our Leslie Visser. Leslie.